How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Connor Hughes MMA channel. And today I'm going to be going over the fights that the UFC recently made and announced, as well as some good news that starts in a couple days. I'm going to break down a few fights on UFC Noche, and I'm going to talk about one fight I would love to add to that card, and as well as I'm going to be going over UFC 331, which was recently announced. UFC 331, I'm very glad they're giving the flyweights the main event. I believe that it's really deserved, especially with this rematch, a rematch of this caliber. But I guess I'll discuss. Wait, which one comes first? That's September. Okay, yeah, the week before. Not Diego Lopez. I wish it was Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez. Because that's a fight that I still really want to see. So I'm kind of hoping Yair wins this fight. For that reason, I still really want to see Yair versus Diego. But I just think this is a really, really bad stylistic matchup. Just a really bad stylistic matchup for Yair Rodriguez. Especially coming off of a almost, I think, 2-year layoff. Let's see, when was his actual last fight? I actually do not remember. It was Pitbull in over a year ago at this point, in a super boring fight where he didn't take damage. So I mean, this guy's literally as boring as it gets. And even if he wins this fight, it's probably not going to be the Diego Lopez fight. He's probably going to sit around and wait for, I don't even know, maybe a Lerone Murphy fight. I truly don't know. I believe that Gene Silva has a lot of advantages in this fight. I believe he's faster. I believe he's more powerful. But I do believe Yair Rodriguez is more fluky. There is a world where Yair Rodriguez flukes up like some bullshit head kick or some like rear elbow where he's going like this and Gene Silva's behind him and he just catches him, like he kind of did versus the Korean Zombie. I think that this is just a bad fight for Yair. I think this is a really tough fight, and I think that Gene Silva's really going to style on him. I think Gene Silva's going to brutally knock him out, and I believe that this might honestly be Yair Rodriguez's last fight, especially if he gets beat up so badly and then he wants to sit out for another year and a half. I don't see the UFC being like, oh yeah, you can come back and fight Dan Ige. Like, they're not going to do that. They're paying him way too much money because he's such a star in Mexico, and he also had the title fight. I think it's just too expensive for the UFC to keep paying this guy as much as often, which is the only good thing for the UFC, but it's bad for the fans. The other fight on this card that I want to break down, Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Curtis Blades. I believe that this is a perfect fight for both of these guys. I believe that if Waldo is able to beat Curtis Blades, he truly puts himself in the argument for maybe getting the next title shot if Tom Aspinall were to beat Cyril Gane after Alexander Volkov, probably. But I think that this fight, I hope that this fight, I'm a Curtis Blades fan, but I'm also a Waldo fan, so this is like a really tough fight for me to choose. I just think that there's not even much breaking down I want to do. I have to watch more film. I need to rewatch Blades Hokit and Waldo versus Volkov. The things that I saw that really interest me in this fight is how often we're getting these big heavyweight fights again. When John Jones was the champion, ducking Tom Aspinall, there was just zero movement in the heavyweight division. Even with Tom Aspinall being out and injured, there's way more movement in the division than there ever was with John Jones, because we know that Aspinall is going to come back and fight, and he's not going to end up retiring. This fight, especially if Waldo wants to do the eye patch method, I believe that this is a very plausible fight for him to win. And then now I want to break down a bit of UFC 331. My GOAT, Josh Van, is back. Watching him beat the shit out of Tatsuro Taira in person was unbelievable. And then watching Strickland to go on to beat Chimaev, truly one of the best nights of my life. I'll never forget it. Just also was on my birthday and in the state I live in, which was just literally perfect. And in that fight, I saw Josh Van absolutely is not a paper champion, and he can absolutely beat Alexandre Pantoja. Black belts should know how to fall. That is a absolutely true statement. It wasn't a total like fluke injury like the McGregor one where he tore his knee. Joshua Van technically did do Pantoja's elbow in. He pushed him over at a weird angle and high enough that he fucked up putting his arm down. People that say that's a fake win, but then they'll go and like claim, they'll be like, oh yeah, Max Holloway just knocked down McGregor. It's not a win. Or if that's a win, this is definitely a win. Joshua Van hurt Pantoja. It wasn't Pantoja hurt himself. Joshua Van did the act that hurt Alexandre Pantoja. It would be the same thing as if someone's in a submission and the person suplexes them and they got hurt. Joshua Van sent him to the ground, which caused the end of the fight. And I believe all of this talk, Pantoja is going to really overlook Joshua Van. I believe his inactivity is going to hurt, and I believe the speed and power of Josh Van, he's going to be in and out, bang, bang, and I believe that it's going to be bad for Pantoja. Also, Josh Van just reeks confidence. He said he might submit Pantoja's bitch ass if he wants. I believe he could. I saw the rear naked choke he almost got against Tatsuro Taira, and the thing with that fight was because of how much bigger and more physically imposing Tatsuro Taira was than Josh Van. That was a fight where I more believe that Tatsuro Taira would beat Josh Van than Alexandre Pantoja. I believe Josh Van fighting someone his same size is going to be an absolute blessing because he's no longer going to have to punch up and he's going to be able to punch through. I think it's going to really start to wear on Pantoja as the fight goes on. Rounds 3 and 4, I think Pantoja's really going to get fucked up. I think round 4 is going to be a 10-8. And I think round 5 it's going to be bad. I think regardless, this is really a bad I mean, he's coming back to get the title he lost by like kind of fluke. But I think Josh Van's him. It's that simple. I think Joshua Van is him. And I think that Pantoja just has gotten older. And I think this injury might affect his grappling. Having to get surgery, maybe rear naked chokes won't be as tight. Maybe overhands won't be as clean. They'll be more rigid. So yeah, I think that I'm so excited for this fight. I'm so glad the flyweights are getting the main event. And I can't wait to see Joshua Van back in action. Co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus... I can't open it. It's so dumb. Arman Tsarukyan versus Mauricio Ruffy. What this fight tells me is that they're probably doing Topuria Pimblett, and Oliveira's probably going to be getting the title shot at Madison Square Garden in November versus Justin Gaethje. Unless somehow they're doing like Charles versus Usman Nurmagomedov, which wouldn't totally surprise me. There was a lot of talk about this being the Arman Charles rematch. And some people are speculating that due to the passing of Charles Oliveira's teammate and friend and UFC fighter Alan Nascimento, rest in peace, that Charles Oliveira pulled out of this fight. I think if that fight was signed and official, it would have already been announced, or like leaked a bit more than it was on these like fake websites. But yeah, I think I think this is a super tough fight for Ruffy, but Arman is hittable. Arman's been hit. Mauricio Ruffy does have really good technical skill, and working with Volkanovski, I believe, is almost perfect when you're fighting someone like Arman. But I just think Arman is going to be too much, too often for Mauricio Ruffy, and I think Arman's going to get this done by arm triangle in round 4. I believe Ruffy is going to show that he is very good, but he's just not championship material yet. Although I do think him versus Justin Gaethje would be an unreal fight to see right now. And then for the final little bit, for those of you who don't know, Dana White's Contender Series is back on August 11th. Dana White's Contender Series is so fun to watch. It's not it's every Tuesday for I think 8 weeks or 10 weeks, and these people are fighting to get into the UFC. A lot of the times, you'll see some of the craziest knockouts, some crazy wars, and a lot of these guys end up being staple guys. Sean O'Malley, Jamal Hill, Josh Hokett, Bo Nickel, all these guys who are current like stars of the sport are starting to become stars. This is where they started. And it's a super fun watch every Tuesday. If you're feeding for some fights, it'll be live on Paramount Plus, not sponsored ever. Yeah. Tune into that. That'll be extremely fun. I'm gonna try and break those fights down after weekly and try and gauge where I think who I would have given contracts to, who I wouldn't have given contracts to, and just a bunch of other things that I think is going to be just super fun. It's going to be super fun season of the Contender Series. I believe it's only going to get bigger, and I believe with the Apex now having a crowd, the atmosphere is just going to be better. So make sure you tune in. If you watch all the way to... Shit! If you watch all the way to the end, please like and subscribe. Have a good one. Thank you.